Hello, everyone. Welcome to another amazing edition of Ask NP Deidre with Nurse Practitioner Deidre. She's a nurse practitioner in Ohio, but she is generously donating her time to help everyone around the world learn about how to find the right foods and supplements, drinks, all of the above that can help make your arteries healthier, whether they're in your legs, your abdomen, your heart, your neck, or even your brain. Since we started doing this so many months ago, we continue to have questions that just roll in throughout the week. And although we try to have a topic per week, um, we have patients that always have a variety of different questions that don't meet the topic. So, what we decided to do today, since we had so many questions roll in, is to have a free for all, to ask all kinds of questions on a variety of different topics that all do still relate to the artery health and the foods, the drinks, the supplements that help to improve your circulation. So, with that, welcome, Nurse Practitioner Deidre. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
So, I want to start though, with what is a major lesson that people can learn based on maybe some patients you had clinic today. Maybe there was a patient that came into your clinic and there's something that you might have said to that person, him or her, and others could learn from.
Yeah, so I actually had a patient, a new patient to me who reached out because they were having peripheral neuropathy. So they've seen kind of all the specialists, and I dig deep kind of in people's diet and lifestyle and all of that. And we got to talking, and an interesting thing that he was talking about was um, so of course he loves pasta and everything. But one of the things he was noticing is every time he does so diet, so that was we always could eat one for blood sugar and everything, but getting in fiber in through your vegetables and fruits and then your protein. And I knew that I couldn't say just stop eating because when you're Italian, kind of part of who you are, that it can convert to sugars, and carbs do that, and they can increase inflammation. So it's interesting that he knew that, but that he was still eating it in abundance. So that was something we talked about.
We had a little bit of network trouble. Your network is a little unstable at the moment, so it broke up just a little bit. It seems like you're doing much better right now. Can you summarize once again the lesson that you were able to teach this patient and others can learn?
Yeah, in summary, he needed to avoid the pasta or limit it. So changing the way that he ate, vegetables first, then protein. And if he had to have pasta, a small amount of that, but having it last to slow down glucose spikes, and minimal is best, but we don't all change overnight, right? Just because a provider tells you to stop doing something doesn't mean it's easy for your life. So the lesson is we need to work together.
One of the patients that wrote in today, and I didn't have a chance to actually get this one to you, but I think you'll be able to. It relates a little bit to what you were just talking about. So I thought I might as well throw it out there. Mark Hyman, Dr. Mark Hyman, this patient is quoting as saying, if you cut out the sugar and the flour, you will live longer. What do you think?
Well, the reason behind that is because it decreases inflammation, right? When you're eating sugar, you're eating flours, carbs, you're increasing inflammation in the body. And inflammation causes, chronic disease. Chronic disease are the things that shorten our lives.
Uh-oh, we are getting a little bit of pushback from our friend Heinz in the live studio audience saying, "Oh my gosh, no pasta? What? You're in so much trouble. I think he's going to tune out now."
Heinz, I didn't say no. I was working with this gentleman to reduce it, but I did not say stop completely.
Are there any types of pasta that might be better than others? I know for me that I can't eat regular pasta. I can't have regular gluten, and I have a gluten intolerance. However, there is a special pasta that I have shipped in from Italy, a special part in Italy, because I heard the Timilia, Timilia, Timilia pasta is actually they don't have any extra pesticides or anything in their soil. And so for some reason, it's low glycemic. The gluten in that pasta does not seem to bother me. And it says it's high in antioxidants, which surprised me. I didn't realize that pasta could have antioxidants.
Yeah, I think the pasta from Italy is very different than what we have in the US. Many people who cannot tolerate gluten at all can tolerate pastas from Italy. So that's a great one if you're looking for a substitute. And then there are the gluten-free options, but then we have to look at gluten-free as like how much sugar are they putting in it to make it taste good. So just because it's gluten-free doesn't mean it's still healthy for you. So looking at that too.
And we have a similar question coming in from Kim as well as Tracy saying, hey, in the UK, they just tell us to walk, walk, walk when you have blocked arteries, especially in your legs. And they tell you you need to eat better, but they don't tell you what you should and shouldn't eat. Now, that's a loaded question, but I think that we can talk about the rainbow.
Yeah, we definitely can talk about the rainbow. So the benefits of you eating the rainbow, but not Skittles or your Fruit Loops, making it in vegetables and fruits, like
I'm glad you clarified that.
30 different in a week of vegetables and fruit. You want to diversify what you're eating for the gut microbiome. And people who have arterial disease can eat things like leafy greens, as long as you're not on Coumadin or something. Those are high in nitrates, so they provide better blood flow. Your berries, so those deep purples and blues, those are rich in antioxidants and polyphenols. Getting your omega-3s through your fatty fish and improves that arterial flexibility. Whole grains, that can improve cholesterol and reduce plaque buildup. Olive oil, we talk about that a lot. We know how great olive oil is for us. It's heart healthy fat. But those are things that we want to incorporate. We really want to add color and diversity to what you're eating.
And we have a question coming in about pomegranate juice. What do you think about pomegranate juice? Tracy also wants to know, is pomegranate juice good for blood flow?
It's absolutely good for blood flow. It's rich in polyphenols and nitrates, so it improves that nitric oxide production. I think we talked about that on a show as well. And it helps relax the blood vessels, and that's how it improves your circulation. And actually, in 2004, in a clinical nutrition study was done on pomegranate juice that reduced carotid artery thickness and improved blood flow in people with heart disease. So basically, it's a juice-powered spa day for your arteries if you're doing pomegranate.
But if you're diabetic, you want to make sure that you minimize, right, any sort of fruit juice and make sure everything in moderation.
Exactly.
Okay, the peanut gallery right here, live studio. Really upset with your Skittles remark and your Fruit Loops remark. You're making lots of friends today, NP Deidre.
So, sorry.
Mike. Mike calling in from Canada with some sarcasm there. I love it. I think it's
That's
good.
okay. I'll take
We're all
it.
joking.
I get it all day long in my house because whenever they bring in a food, I'm like, does it have red dye 40 or red dye 3 in it? What's in it? What are we eating? So, yeah, they get lots of questions. So I'm used to it.
You
Used
know,
to
what was interesting is you mentioned the red dye. The Dr. Michael Danziger was on Monday, not to call him out or anything, but I didn't have a chance to follow up when Douglas, who's also here in the live studio audience, asked him about the use of egg whites in a carton. And he was talking about Dr. Danziger said, hey, I think those are great. Egg whites are fantastic. Better, to reduce the number of egg yolks that you're eating because there's more saturated fat, more calories in there. So I love the idea of egg whites. And he said, even with a little bit of yellow dye in there. And I'm thinking, I don't want red dye. I don't want yellow dye. I don't want to die from dyes. I mean, I'm thinking, I would imagine if it's colored by turmeric, and I've seen that before, but I would hope that there would be egg white brands that do not have yellow dye in them.
Right. I actually have never out of a box,
Oh no, nurse practitioner Deidre, you're
strangely
unstable
enough,
again with your
because get
network.
the
Do you want to try that again? You were unstable for a moment. I know. The technical gremlins, the network is just not happy with your Fruit Loops and Skittles comments either.
I know it wants to shut me down, right? So,
It
but
wants
I've never,
more sugar to fuel this 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 call.
I've actually never had egg whites out of a box. So I actually would have to read those and see what is actually in it. But almost anything that has some sort of processing probably has ingredients we shouldn't consume a lot of.
And Kayla is saying, wait, so eggs are a no, only egg whites? No, that's not what we're saying. What Dr. Michael Danziger had said, and I will ask nurse practitioner Deidre her opinion as well, but what Dr. Danziger had said is that no more than 6 eggs a week and try and only have 1 egg yolk to 2 egg whites, if that makes sense. So, um, just don't want to have a whole meal with both yolks. So 1 egg with the yolk and 2 egg whites, if that makes sense. What do you think, NP Deidre?
Yeah, I think that's a good thing to go if we're especially working on cholesterol levels. If you don't have an issue with cholesterol, I don't think it's as big a problem to have eggs. We know there's a lot of health benefits to that.
Yeah, and there are a lot of people you can go to Boston Heart Diagnostics and find out if you have more of a liver production problem when it comes to cholesterol or a cholesterol reabsorption problem. And if you have a cholesterol reabsorption problem, foods may have a greater impact on your overall cholesterol in your blood. But the number one thing, according to Boston Heart Diagnostics, is if you do have a cholesterol reabsorption issue, that you do increase the fiber in your body, and that men should have bowel movements 2 to 3 times a day and women 1 to 2 to excrete the additional cholesterol out of your body a little bit quicker. And that should help balance things out. Am I on track, Deidre?
You are. And actually, to just get down to specifics of how much fiber, women should have about 30 to 35 grams, and men should have about 40 to 45 grams in a day. Most of us don't hit that. But if you're really wanting to improve cholesterol levels and everything, fiber is where it's at.
And we have Heinz. Heinz sitting here. He's dying to get in here to ask you a question, NP Deidre. You already upset him with the Skittles, the Fruit Loops, and then I'm afraid that our entire broadcast is going to be shut off because our producer Josh is not too happy about the eggs.
No, I was
So
just
much
kidding
fun.
earlier, but back to the pomegranate. If you look in the store aisles, they got from concentrate and then they got pure pomegranate juice. You said something about a study. Was there the study based on one or the other? I mean, if you get pure, it's very expensive.
You know what, Heinz, I'm not 100% sure if they use pure or not, but I'll look into it a little bit more and I'll get back with you on that one.
Okay,
What type of pomegranate juice they used.
thanks.
I think you're always safe to actually just get a pomegranate and eat the seeds. Probably the best way to consume it, right? Then you're getting a little
I've never
extra
eaten
fiber
a
in
whole
there.
pomegranate. I mean, is that easy to eat or is that, I can't say I ever ate a pomegranate. Is that easy to eat or do you?
You know what?
I
I am
can,
so lazy. I get them there's a container that I can get in the produce section of my supermarket. and it has, someone's already taken all the seeds out, and I pour the seeds across my salads.
We
I think
used to
it's
do that.
fun.
Sorry.
I think it's fun to
We used to
peel
cut them in half and then use a sewing needle and get the pips out with the sewing needle and eat them like that. Well, that was when we were children, by the way. Just FYI.
With a sewing needle.
Yeah.
So, any complications with that process?
I know.
Any stories to share? Any trips to the emergency room?
Can I just ask? I've got a bottle of pomegranate juice that's mixed with cranberry juice. Is cranberry juice okay?
Yeah, actually, cranberry juice is really good. It also acts like it's like spraying Pam on your bladder, even, and acts like a so bad bacteria cannot stick. Also, so that's what cranberry juice is used a lot for. But cranberries are rich in polyphenols, also.
Just
So
got to be careful of those sugars. So I don't do the dried cranberries, and I limit my cranberry juice, but I have a little bit. But when you're having the cranberry juice or you're having the pomegranate juice with a meal, and it's just maybe 8 ounces, then it's not going to have as great of a chance to spike your blood sugar, will it?
no, and it's that fiber than protein and things like that. Juices always carry a little bit more um, of a sugar increase. So if you have the opportunity to use a continuous glucose monitor, your doctor's done that for you, you can actually really hone in on what actually spikes your blood sugar more than other things. For some people, it's not always the juices and things. It can be things like stress. So.
Donna is asking about 3 different products: matcha tea, beetroot powder, and hibiscus. And hibiscus is my favorite because at one point I recall that she shared in the group a picture of hibiscus vodka and asked, well, is this healthy now?
Ah, that's great. So you've got the artery trio there, right? Because your matcha's loaded with catechins like ECGC, and that reduces inflammation. It enhances your fat metabolism, and it can be a gentle lowering blood pressure agent. Hibiscus tea acts like a natural ACE inhibitor, which is one of the blood pressure medications that's used as kind of a first line blood pressure med. So it acts naturally like that, and it can lower the blood pressure. And it is really high in antioxidants, the same ones that are found in berries. And then your beetroot, because of the nitrates, it converts to nitric oxide, and that helps lower blood pressure as well. So I would say that is a great artery trio there.
And Kayla's has a few questions. Kayla, do you want to unmute and ask your questions? You have a couple here that I think are really good questions.
Sure. Yeah, I was just wondering if patients who don't necessarily have any other comorbidities with PAD, if they have more freedoms when it comes to food. So if they don't have diabetes, don't necessarily have high blood pressure, things like that.
You actually do have more freedom with foods because we're not having to worry about like how much kale can you eat that would change like your INR levels. We're not looking at what's going to change your blood glucose. But what I would say, like a blanket statement, is processed foods in general should be out for everybody, like limit that as much as possible. And I always say like single foods. So like one ingredient, like if you pick it up around the perimeter of the store, that's the best thing to do. So your vegetables, your fruits, and then using lots of spices for those, as well as really high quality meats for you too. So protein and fiber are where it's at, and just kind of limit any carbohydrate intake.
And as you said earlier, still the sugar and the flour, trying to eliminate those is probably a really good idea, especially for the future. Even one extra sugar molecule in your blood can damage your artery walls, leading to more plaque buildup. So you do want to make sure, especially when more than 50% of American adults in particular are all either pre-diabetic or diabetic. And it's the easiest thing that you can actually control, which is eliminate the sugar, eliminate the flour, reduce the carbs, and completely eliminate those processed foods if possible. And as she said, eat around the perimeter of the store. And that doesn't mean Heinz, the Girl Scout cookies out front. I know I just made him sad. But he was giving you a thumbs up that since he does not have the additional comorbidities, that he does have a little bit more freedom. So you're kind of winning him back slowly but surely. And Kayla, you had another question that you wanted to ask.
Yeah, I was curious if, because I know we said to reduce the amount of sugar as much as possible. Is honey an okay alternative, or is there something else that I can use to sweeten things?
So with no comorbidities, I usually say for sweetening, you can do small amounts of honey, small amounts of pure maple syrup, blackstrap molasses, things like that. I tend to tell people to avoid those artificial sweeteners because you can run into issues with the gut microbiome and causing leaky gut and things. I've seen it in many patients. So small amounts of those, absolutely, especially with no comorbidities. Those are great, safe alternatives to sweeten things up.
And I know with honey is just, I was told that it's toxic when you cook it. So I'm wondering if you've heard the same thing. I was told that if you're going to add honey to any recipe, to make sure to add it afterwards. So it's off the boiling point and, just, like for a tea sitting in a cup or already sitting on your plate.
I do know you should do it off the boiling point. I don't know if it's because it becomes toxic, but I know that that's how you're supposed to use it. I know with my teas, I have to let the boiling point damper down and I can add a little bit of honey at that point.
And Douglas has a question about comfort foods for artery health. When you think about comfort foods, right, Douglas, you think about all the bad things out there, the candy, the cake, the carbs, all of the above. But I think your question might be, are there any comfort foods that are okay for artery health?
So when I think of that, that's a loaded question because in my neck of the woods, comfort foods really come down to like your fried foods, your mashed potatoes, things like that. And we know that those really can cause inflammation in the body. So if you're wanting to add comfort foods, air popped popcorn with olive oil. So popcorn to me is a comfort food, but there is a safe way to do that. Frozen banana slices dipped in peanut butter can be a comfort food. If you want something like rich and savory, roasted chickpeas because you get some protein and crunch. I'm going to say dark chocolate. Heinz, sorry about that, but I love dark chocolate. And then actually avocado and a pinch of sea salt. But those old comfort foods, like we made homemade noodles and all of that, I think our entire Thanksgiving used to be a carb. So no vegetables, but we just have to kind of tweak that and avoid those heavy carb comfort foods.
And Bambi has a question coming in from YouTube. A big hello to Bambi. Glad she's joining us. Is there really any food that actually clears the arteries? We see that all the time. And then we see there are supplements out there that claim that they're filled with these certain foods or the nutrients from those foods, and they clear the arteries. And I don't know if there's, of course, the FDA has not given any sort of clearance to any of that. What are your thoughts? What can actually, or is there something that can actually necessarily clean an artery?
That is a good question. And as much as I'm in the supplement and health food, I actually don't even know if there's a study on clearing the arteries. So I can't really speak to that and give you good information about that. But if I find it, I promise you I will share that. So,
Yeah, I have yet to see any natural foods like that completely clean the artery. If you have, it depends on how you look at it. And if you have rock hard calcium that is embedded into the artery wall and it's pushing the wall out, that I'm really skeptical on whether or not something could, or food could actually clean the artery and clear up that blockage. Now, if you're thinking about it from the perspective of someone who's hypercoagulable, someone who has thicker, more syrupy blood, well, simply lowering your blood sugar is going to clean the plaque from your blood, because clot is considered a type of plaque. There are 4 different types of plaque, I think, that are in the arteries, and clot, thrombus, fibrous material, and then rock hard calcium. And so on the lower end there with the clot and maybe some of the thrombus, possibly just eating foods if lower carb, lower sugar might help with that. And some of the items that you've mentioned over the past few weeks where we've talked about foods and spices and herbs that will improve your circulation, those might fit in that category.
and anything that would reduce inflammation in general is going to be great for the arteries, but it's not, I don't think there's any studies on if it can clean the artery, but reduction can be beneficial.
Okay, Bambi has another question. What about whole grain flour? So I know that Dr. Mark Hyman wants you to eliminate all flour, especially enriched flour. But I'm wondering, well, is whole grain flour a lesser of all evils? Maybe chickpea flour, almond flour. There are all kinds of different ones out there now.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think I missed part of what you were saying because my internet today is not doing so great. I'm so sorry about that.
I know. I really think it's the topic. I don't think the technical gods are happy with a low sugar diet, because
Right.
obviously.
When it's
So
taboo, it goes all the way around.
I know. So, or maybe it's a fan of flour fan. So Bambi wants to know about whole grain flour. And remember, I said earlier that Dr. Mark Hyman said no flour, no sugar, and especially no enriched flour. And that's particularly important for those who have an MTHFR mutation where their bodies struggle to turn food into fuel. And so enriched flour is definitely a no-no. There are all kinds of options other than whole grain flour. You have almond flour, you have chickpea flour. She was also asking about chickpeas. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I would use some of the alternatives that are less inflammatory. Looking into places that do regenerative farming practices because you're getting more richness in anything that we do. So that's a good thing to be adding there. I don't eat a whole lot of grains and flours and things with that in it, just because it does cause inflammation. So I don't know, do you have some good recipes that you use, Kim?
You're gonna love this. So I'd like to actually have you comment at some point, not today, not on xanthan gum. So I use a lot of xanthan gum, but even more so, I use arrowroot. So I don't really use flours for most of my recipes anymore. If you're looking at flour as a thickener, I use arrowroot as a thickener. And I was just talking to Rebecca, who is one of our patients in the Global PAD Association. Um, she is also our amazing designer as well. She was talking about how she uses arrowroot as a thickener for making homemade cashew milk cheese, which I thought was really interesting because I didn't think it could be used in that realm, but I use it to thicken up when I make a fettuccine alfredo that is on the healthier side. I use it for everything. In terms of baking, I do use chickpea flour versus anything else. I use a thinner grain um, almond flour as well. Although sometimes I feel like that one's more grainy. I feel like the chickpea flour just melds a little bit better. So those are my options. That's what I like to do.
Yeah, I'm less of a baker and I love to cook. Like I love to make dishes, but I don't get into a lot of the flours and things like that just because it's not my cup of tea.
There are a lot of recipes out there that are using oatmeal. And for a while, I thought that oatmeal was pretty healthy. But then I have been reading lately that newer studies are showing that oatmeal is inflammatory. And that was what I was using for a lot of my cookies that I would make. I would make healthier cookie recipes. And now I'm thinking I should not be using oatmeal.
Yeah, I've read a little bit about oatmeal and inflammation and everything. I'm still on the fence about is it good or is it not. Like I feel like I need more information to say either way.
I think it has a good argument on both sides of it. And Kayla wants to know about sourdough bread. This is interesting because I'm generally gluten intolerant, but for some reason, if it's a good quality sourdough, and especially the ones homemade, I do okay with sourdough bread, and it has wheat flour in it. It's not enriched in the ones that I use, but I'm curious what your thoughts are on sourdough and if that is a good alternative.
So it actually, and a quick answer is okay for people with arterial issues because sourdough is easier on your blood sugar and gut. So it's a win for your heart and your arteries, but it has that natural fermentation. We make those starters that culture wild yeast and lactic acid bacteria, but that fermentation process makes it easier to digest and more nutrient bioavailable. And then the low glycemic part of it is a benefit. That's another win. And then it's just gut friendly because of fermentation creates prebiotics.
And I am going to bring Mike back because I'm not sure if he's actually serious about his next question, or if there's a little bit of.
No, that was a little bit of a joke. I know that everything on a full English breakfast is fried. So
Fried and full of saturated fat.
yeah, sorry about that.
Well, maybe the beans are okay. The beans might be okay. The eggs might be okay.
Yeah,
One
that's probably
egg,
the
two
only
egg
thing.
whites.
2 egg whites, yeah, without the yolks. So, or without the jokes. There you go.
We have another question coming in. I can't tell who this is from, but it says, should a diabetic with a cholesterol of 195 continue to eat nuts or wait or fish until the cholesterol level comes down? Interesting that they would mention fish and nuts when it comes to cholesterol. Those would be two things that would be on my lower end of the list in terms of reducing.
Yeah. So I definitely say talk to your doctor about what you can and can't eat, but just in general, like your fish is your omega-3, that's really good at reducing inflammation. Nuts have a lot of omega-6, omega-3 in them. So in general, healthier, but if you're looking to reduce cholesterol more, fiber is actually where it's at, like adding things that are high in fiber and increasing that. And that is a way to lower cholesterol through food, using food as medicine.
I love this question. What are some foods that may help quit smoking? Seems some gain weight, replacing cigs with comfort food. Maybe there are even foods that might be good to pull to snack on to stop the craving or even to satisfy the quote, something in my hand, unquote, to mouth habits.
Right. So I think that is a really great question. Foods to snack on. Anything that gives you like a crunch that takes longer for you to chew, to break down. So you don't want to be reaching for a drink or reaching for replacing it for something that just is high caloric. So anything lower calorie, if you're needing something more, this is when you can food prep, cut up things, and have lots of little snacks and vegetables for you. But use food as a mindful reward and not a crutch. So like rewarding yourself, like, hey, I've done this many hours without having a cigarette, and comfort foods like we talked about earlier. The air popped popcorn is a really great thing, but I would definitely say use it as a mindful reward, and then stick to things that are low glycemic and lots of snacky. Vegetables are safe to do. I know they're not considered comfort foods, but we can replace that, putting something in our mouth with something that is low caloric, low glycemic.
I just the peanut gallery. Pepsi Heinz. No, not at all. Not going there. Actually, and I think that Dr. John Phillips is he has this intuition because he's calling me on my cell phone right now as you and I. And for those that don't know, Dr. John Phillips is a mutual friend of ours, and actually nurse practitioner Deidre is one of his patients over in Ohio as well. He saved her life many,
Yes.
many moons ago. So we have the equal adoration for him. And I was going to ask him if he would give up a Saturday show so you and I could co-host our Saturday, The Heart of Innovation together. So hopefully we'll have an answer on that very soon. I'm sure it'll be a yes. Have to ask the boss, right?
Yep.
So I was thinking back to the topic at hand as far as a replacement for the cigarettes. As you're talking about those vegetables, I could almost imagine having an entire boatload of cut up carrot sticks and celery sticks, jicama sticks, all sitting in the refrigerator with a beautiful hummus dip. Or even whatever your favorite dip might be. It might even be a salsa, or even guacamole would be even more tasty and satisfying.
I'll tell you something I did last night, and this would be a good one. So I cut up a cucumber, and I did like 5 different bowls, and I added different spices to see which one we liked better. But that was like our thing. So there was cumin with them. It wasn't my favorite. I really do like it on meats, but not on my cucumber. Garlic was one. We did a little sea salt. So we were picking like different seasonings to see what we like. So that's a fun thing. Like if you just, okay, it gets boring to just eat carrots, but what if we add a little spice to what we've got and see what we like and kind of mix it up a little bit?
And you know what I do for my dad is I create a bag of raw nuts, a variety of different nuts, and I add in, I didn't realize how praiseworthy powdered garlic really is and how it truly replaces salt, in my opinion. So I add some garlic. Sometimes I'll add a little bit of onion powder because the two of them together replace the salt for me. A little bit of cayenne pepper, and I actually add a little, of wasabi peas, more natural kind without the food dye in them. And I shake it up, and it has a really great flavor, and it's fantastic to take with you wherever you want to go, and it has that crunchiness, so that might help.
Yeah, I think that's good. It's just finding new things. Like, let
Yeah.
this be a time of exploration and finding new things and using food mindfully.
And Bambi has a good idea here. You mentioned the popcorn. She adds a little bit of nutritional yeast for the cheesiness to her air popped popcorn.
Yeah, I've heard that, and I've heard that's really good. So,
Just a little bit. I've overdone it on that whole nutritional yeast thing, and I couldn't button my pants for like a week. I was so bloated. It was ridiculous. So definitely use in moderation and test it out just a little bit. It is high in B vitamins, so that's a really great benefit of the nutritional yeast. But also, if you're allergic to yeast, make sure you stay away from that. What about diet soda? Is that something that's okay on occasions for PAD patients? And before you say that, I have an alternative to it. If you do like, and they say to stay away from fizzy drinks as much as possible and drink more high alkaline water, But if you are going to have a fizzy drink and you need that, you crave that, what's really great is a little bit of Pellegrino with some naturally infused white balsamic vinegar. And I get the naturally infused Sicilian lemon or apricot white balsamic vinegar. And I get that from Amphora Nueva, which they distribute everywhere. And I know they have a place that they distribute over in Ohio, actually near you, Nurse Practitioner Deidre. But I do that, and then I add a little bit of lime or add a little bit of lemon, and I have Sprite. So it's my soda alternative.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of diet pops at all. So, and I know I'm going to get hate for that one. But I am in agreement, like to take like a sparkling water and make something that you really enjoy and that you like would be the best alternative. Another thing that I like is it's called Shrub. And so it does have apple cider vinegar in it, but they infuse it with different flavors. And like 2 tablespoons of Shrub can make like a mocktail for you. And it's really good for gut health, low glycemic. So that's another alternative to make a drink as well. I am just a straight, like I love lime if I'm going to do it. I just do a lot of lime with mine. And to me, it's a Sprite alternative, yes.
And it's amazing. Our friend Mike here in the live studio audience, he was talking about his pomegranate and cranberry juice, his mix. Pour some of that into a little bit of sparkling water, squeeze a slice of an orange in there, and it's really delicious. My parents used to, when they would have a little cocktail when I was younger, us kids would get a cocktail or a mocktail, I should say, and they called it the cranberry juice cocktail. And it was the cranberry juice and a little bit of sparkling water and squeeze a little orange in it or a lime, which is actually delicious.
Yeah.
And Kayla is asking about the brand Olipop. They make natural sodas and have fiber. Personally, if you can get that down, I couldn't get it down. I literally, if I was going to replace it, it certainly was not crave worthy for me. Kayla, I don't know about you. Do you like them? Maybe there's a flavor I'm not familiar with that's actually tasty.
Yeah, I've never had them.
Kayla, you can go ahead.
Yeah.
I did meet a doctor. I have to go back. It's called um, oh shoot, I have to go back and remember what the name of the soda was. But there's a doctor down in Southern California at AVA Vascular, and I was just there a couple weeks ago. Dr. Nick Patel. His son has made a diabetic friendly soda, and it's an alternative to Dr. Pepper. And I'm trying to think. I think he called it Dr. Patel, is what I think he actually called it. I'll have to go back and look and maybe share it later. But it wasn't quite Dr. Pepper, but it certainly had that satisfying flavor of a Dr. Pepper, which I thought was amazing, and it was all natural ingredients. So he's from India, and a lot of his family all have diabetes, but they love their pop. And so he actually made this to start with his family to get them off regular soda and one of their favorite sodas. And I know this is near and dear to our friend Douglas's heart, who's here in our live studio audience, Dr. Pepper. And you know what? I hadn't even had a Dr. Pepper for 10 years until I met him in San Antonio. I think it was 1 year ago. And I ended up having my first Dr. Pepper, and that made it tough for me to go without having another Dr. Pepper. So the best thing about those sodas, best thing you could do is just don't start.
Yeah, many of them are just empty
Right.
calories for us. Yeah.
Yeah. She likes Kayla likes her ginger ale. We're gonna have to go look up Olipop and find out a little bit more. But we only have a few minutes here. I have a few more questions. Boy, we're gonna have to do this again because I am getting flooded with questions, and so is Josh looking at our social media channels. But we have Coco who's asking about using ashwagandha as an herb to control um, smoking cessation, to actually try to quit smoking or vaping. I'd never heard of that. I know that ashwagandha is a relaxant, so maybe it would help curb anxiety if you're
Right.
smoking due to anxiety.
So trying to kick cigarettes, but your brain's screaming for a snack, right? And so ashwagandha, it's an adaptogen, helps to reduce stress, anxiety, and cravings, actually. So it supports your cortisol balance, which actually spikes when you're quitting nicotine. So it helps to reduce the cortisol there. And so it is helpful in kind of reducing cravings and the stress and anxiety related to new changes.
Can you talk about nattokinase? We have two folks that are asking about nattokinase.
Yeah. So it's actually a fermented soy enzyme. It's a natural blood thinning properties, and it helps prevent clots and reduce arterial stiffness. But you should not use it with other blood thinners unless you're medically supervised. But nattokinase really is kind of considered like the cleanup crew, sweeping away clots and things like that.
So back to what we were talking about before when those people were talking, that we got the question about cleaning the arteries and cleaning the plaque. And we talked about that softer plaque, especially the clots that are in your blood, that is definitely an option. But again, always check with your healthcare provider to ensure that it's right for you and it doesn't have any sort of interactions that are not safe with your medications and other supplements that you are taking. We have a question about coconut milk. Is it okay to drink? And then also, what about coconut oil? Is it okay to use?
Yeah, is it a friend or a foe, right? So coconut milk, it's okay in moderation. It does contain those MCTs, medium chain triglycerides, which can support energy and metabolism. So choose an unsweetened if you're going to do it, and watch for any added gums in that. Your coconut oil, that can be controversial because it's high in saturated fat, but there are studies that show that it's neutral or even positive effect on your HDL cholesterol. So if you're going to use coconut oil, you want to do that sparingly and not as your main fat. Olive oil is still number one for heart health.
I am not sure I can understand this question, but maybe it's just I don't have the familiarity with this particular product. But a naturopath has recommended Van Kratz nitric factor and Biomedica nattokinase.
Okay. It's probably a blend because it's not a single product that they're talking about. So I would be interested in seeing what the blend is, if they could. If it's nitric,
We're losing you for a second
they have
there. You might
nitric
want to catch back up.
oxide in it, which we know is beneficial. Are we?
We lost you for a second there. You're freezing. And you're not even talking about sugar either. So maybe we have something else going on here. Okay, she is still frozen. So it's probably a good time to wrap things up. And next week, we are going to be talking about how to reduce pain with the foods and supplements you take. The foods and supplements that may increase pain and the ones that may decrease pain. I know we should get into it today, but we're out of time. So same bat channel, same bat time next Wednesday. We hope to see you guys then. And if you want to get notified when our next series is, make sure that you do like this video and subscribe to our channels. Make sure you go to youtube.com/the @NP Deidre and youtube.com/the @the way to my heart. Thanks so much, everyone. And thank you so much, Nurse Practitioner Deidre.